The phone rang just after midnight. When a tired single mother named Emily heard a man's voice answer, she immediately realized she had dialed the wrong number. Embarrassed, she apologized and prepared to hang up. But before she could, the stranger heard something in her voice, a quiet sadness she could no longer hide. That wrong number was about to change 2 lives forever. Before we begin, please subscribe to Kindness Library, like this video, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us share more stories that remind people how one small act of kindness can change someone's entire world. Emily Carter lived with her 8-year-old son, Noah, in a small apartment outside Chicago. She worked long hours at a neighborhood grocery store, but lately, life had become harder than ever. Her rent was overdue. Her old car had stopped running. And that evening, Noah had developed a high fever. Emily had tried calling her older sister, hoping she could drive them to an urgent care clinic. But with shaking hands and tired eyes, Emily entered one digit incorrectly. A man answered. "Hello?" Emily froze. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I must have the wrong number." She was about to hang up when Noah coughed loudly in the background. The stranger paused. "Is someone sick?" Emily looked toward her son's bedroom. "It's my little boy," she said softly. "But don't worry. I called you by mistake." The man could have simply said goodbye. Instead, he asked, "Do you have someone who can help you?" For some reason, that simple question broke through Emily's defenses. She sat down at the kitchen table and wiped tears from her eyes. "I was trying to call my sister," she admitted. "My son has a fever, my car isn't working, and I don't have enough money for a taxi both ways. I'll figure something out." There was silence on the line. Then the stranger said, "What's your name?" "Emily." "I'm Daniel." What Emily didn't know was that Daniel Hayes was a billionaire businessman. He owned a successful technology company and lived in a beautiful home overlooking Lake Michigan. But that night, none of that mattered. To Emily, he was simply Daniel, the stranger who stayed on the phone when she desperately needed someone to listen. Daniel arranged a ride to take Emily and Noah to the clinic. Emily immediately protested. "I can't accept that from a stranger." "Then don't think of me as a stranger," Daniel replied. "Think of me as the person you accidentally called tonight." For the first time that evening, Emily smiled. At the clinic, doctors discovered Noah had a serious infection that needed treatment. Thankfully, Emily had brought him in before his condition became dangerous. While Noah rested, Emily sent Daniel a text. "You may have helped save my son's life tonight. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." His response came moments later. "Just help someone else when you get the chance." Emily thought that would be the end of their strange encounter. It wasn't. A week later, Daniel called to ask how Noah was doing. Then he called again a few days later. Their conversations slowly became a friendship. Daniel learned that Emily had once dreamed of becoming a nurse. She had attended community college but dropped out after her husband left and she became responsible for raising Noah alone. Emily also learned something surprising about Daniel. Despite his wealth, he was deeply lonely. His wife had died several years earlier. Since then, Daniel had buried himself in work. His mansion was beautiful, but most nights he ate dinner alone. One afternoon, Emily invited him to her apartment for dinner. Daniel laughed. "You don't even know what I look like." "Exactly," Emily replied. "And you helped my son without knowing what we looked like." Daniel agreed. When he arrived, Emily expected someone ordinary. Instead, a polished black car stopped outside. Daniel stepped out wearing a simple jacket and carrying a small gift for Noah. Emily stared at him. She recognized his face from business magazines. "You're Daniel Hayes?" Daniel smiled awkwardly. "Technically, yes. You're a billionaire." And you're making spaghetti, he replied. So can we discuss my financial situation after dinner? Emily burst out laughing. That evening, Daniel sat at their tiny kitchen table eating spaghetti while Noah told him endless stories about school. For Daniel, it was the happiest dinner he'd had in years. Over the following months, something beautiful happened. Daniel didn't simply hand Emily money. Instead, he helped her create an opportunity. His company offered scholarships for working parents who wanted to return to school. Emily applied like everyone else and earned one. She returned to nursing school. 2 years later, Emily graduated. Daniel sat beside Noah in the audience, cheering louder than almost anyone. But Emily never forgot Daniel's request from that first night. Help someone else. So she did. As a nurse, she became known for spending extra time with frightened patients. She bought meals for struggling families. She helped an elderly patient find transportation home. Whenever someone asked why she cared so much, Emily smiled. Because once, someone answered when he didn't have to. Years later, Daniel and Emily helped create a small community program that provided emergency transportation for parents who couldn't afford to take sick children to medical appointments. They called it the Wrong Number Fund. At the opening ceremony, Noah, now a teenager, stood beside them. A reporter asked Daniel why a billionaire would spend so much time on such a small project. Daniel looked at Emily and Noah. Because money can build companies, he said, but kindness builds connections. And sometimes those connections save us too. Emily had once believed she was the person who needed saving. But Daniel understood something she hadn't realized. That midnight phone call had saved him from loneliness too. One wrong digit connected two strangers who were living completely different lives. One was worried about paying rent. The other had more money than he could ever spend. Yet both needed the same thing that night. Someone who cared. And that's the beautiful thing about kindness. You don't need to be rich to give it. You don't need the perfect words, and you don't need to know exactly how someone's story will end. Sometimes you simply need to answer. So the next time life gives you an unexpected opportunity to help someone, don't ignore it. A small kindness may feel ordinary to you, but to someone else, it could become the moment they remember forever. Because sometimes the greatest blessings enter our lives through the doors we never meant to open, even through a wrong number.